Hi everyone, this is Shirley Solis with ShirleySolis.com. And today I wanted to share with you the instant solution for weary moms. I think that after being a mom for nearly 20 years, I personally know how difficult it is to raise children just from the moment they're born, we're exhausted because we're waking up every 2 to 3 hours to nurse the baby. We're changing diapers all day. And when they get to be a little bit older, they just want to be clinging on you all the time. And after that, when they finally begin to walk, what turns out to be is we have to be picking up after their little messes and because they find, the cup drawers or whatever, and they start pulling stuff out of there. And on one side, you're cleaning, and on the other side, they're just constantly taking things out. And needless to say, when you add another child or another child to that, to that pot, because so many people really have 2 and 3 children, and sometimes like me, six, it could get pretty crazy. Like I know so many times in my personal journal, I've written like, God, I'm so tired. I am exhausted. And this has been something that, has been reoccurring for me for the last 20 years because again, children really can really cause a big exhaustion. And then, when a woman gets to the point of exhaustion, physical exhaustion, she really gets emotionally weary. And that weariness is almost like there's a hopelessness, like the laundry pile is never going to end, like the dishes are never going to end, and it seems like a necessary job that needs to be done, the cleaning and picking up and everything. But and we know that if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be able to maintain a house and keep the family, in order. But it almost seems like, gosh, I'm not even getting paid for this. I mean, other people go out there and, men or women, they go out, they do a job, and then they get paid for that. I'm doing all of this work, it never ends, and yet I don't get any income for it. So, yes, we can sit down and rationalize and be like, well, there's a long benefit because our children are going to be great. But the reality of it is that we are exhausted, and sometimes we like hard, actually not sometimes, like we never get a break. There is no vacation day. Even when you're on vacation, mommy's still helping the children get dressed, mommy's still making sure the meals get done. And it's very tiring. It's very tiring. It's very weary. Now, for my personal life, you add a business to that. You add writing books. You add coaching people. And I have to be honest with you and tell you that there's days when I'm like, oh my gosh, I am really tired. And I've learned to create bigger boundaries in my life. I've definitely learned to create those pockets that allow me to rest, but it still had felt like there was like something was missing. So I've, for the last couple of weeks, I've like been actively asking God about this whole idea of rest. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I really believe that I am a three-part being. I am a physical body right here, like you see me, dark hair, brown eyes, short Hispanic, fiery girl. There's also a soul in me. It's the soul is particular to me. That soul is my heart, my emotions, my thoughts, my belief systems. And then there's a spirit, my spirit. And in the spirit lies this like powerful, majestic, amazing creation of God. And you're the same way too. So, you're often hear me talk about parenting, but I'll be talking about God, and you'll hear me talking about like all of these three aspects because we're not fragmented. We're all of that. So anyway, I was asking God about this whole resting thing. Like I've heard people like, oh, you can rest on Jesus or you can rest on God. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like you can go and rest on someone and you can lean your head on his shoulder or her shoulder, but it's like a moment, like it doesn't last. And there's pockets of that rest, but I didn't really know what that meant. So this morning, I woke up and I was just reading through the Bible, and um, I was just like asking, okay, what is this thing about rest? Well, here I come to this amazing place in Hebrew 4. And for those of you that have never picked up a Bible before, like, don't worry, just Google Hebrew 4. And I would actually say something like, you even have to add New Living Translation or the Message. because it's going to be easier to understand if you've never picked up a Bible before. But for those of you that have, pick up whatever version of the Bible you want. Now, I'm not saying you have to, for those of you that don't have a personal relationship with God, just, it's just as simple as saying, like, hey, God, I want to know you more. This isn't about going to church. It isn't about, you know, um, reading your Bible every single day. Like, it's just an intention, and God will take care of the rest, and you get to decide what happens after that. So it's just an intention that says, hey, God, I want to get to know you more, and then leave it there. He'll take care of it. But anyway, for those of you that have already made that decision and been pursuing, you can go, and you actually, for all of you, just go to, Google, and be like, Google Hebrew 4. And I read it over and over because it was kind of confusing. And I was like, this is really hard to understand. Mind you, I've been reading the Bible for a really long time now, probably close to 18 years. And this was still difficult to understand for me because sometimes the wording is weird. And so that's why something like the Message Bible is easy to help understand. So as I kept looking and looking and looking and like just searching and asking, and what people would call meditating on that, I just kept asking and asking and like just waiting. And then it came to me. And I realized this was the instant solution to being a weary mom, like to the fact that we are weary sometimes. And here's the thing. I realized that when we talk about rest as humans, we're thinking of like literal rest. Like I go someplace to a bed and I lay down, right? And I'm resting. It's a verb. It's an action that you take. Well, it turns out that the place of rest, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the word katapausi. Katapausi, I believe that's the word actually. Let me confirm that with you. Kata, yep, it is the word. What I do is I just go into the original word of the original Greek and where this word was written, and it's the word katapausis, katapausis, and that word is not a verb, it's a noun. And what I realized was this place of rest is a noun. It's a place you enter into. Now, have you ever tried to do something in a place that just didn't belong? Like, have you ever asked your kids, like, hey, stop skateboarding inside the house because you clearly know that if you skateboard inside the house, you might drop something, you know, or the kids would drop something? Have you ever tried growing a garden indoors, right? Like, that stuff doesn't make sense. So what I realized is, like, just like we can do a certain action in the wrong place, it turns out that we've been doing all of these actions, even when we've had a relationship with God, we've been doing all of these actions of like cleaning, cooking, um, um, taking care of the kids, wiping butts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, out of a wrong place. Like we've been doing it inside this box called Earth. And yes, our spirit has had pockets where we go and we rest on God, but it's been thinking about it as a verb rather than as a place. So I realized we've been doing it in the wrong place because it's a noun. So here's what happens. There are two boxes. I want you to think of two locations. One is a box called rest, where it's a place, it's a spiritual place, it's a place with God. And then there's this other pocket in this other square, and it's called earth. And that's where you just work and do your everyday things, right? And so you can either walk into this rest, or that is called rest. Now it's a noun again, it's a physical place in heaven, it's like a spiritual place. Or you can walk into this other box, and it's just earth. It's like there's no spiritual dimension to it. So now I just want you to close your eyes, and I want you to intend and like make this powerful intention to say, all right, God, I'm going to walk into this place of rest. Okay? And you just walk in, pretend there's a door, open the door, and you just walk in to that place of rest. Now you're in that place of rest. Now notice what it says when it follows. Out of the place of rest, it says, whoever wrote this, it says, be diligent about walking into that place of rest. See, when we're not in that place of rest and we don't enter into that place of rest, that noun, we are diligent about all the other things. But what this verse was saying is like, you just need to be diligent about walking into that place of rest. And then I was thinking, like, okay, if you walk into that place of rest and that's all you have to be diligent for, then how do you work, right? Well, what it says is that in that place of rest, not that there isn't any work, but that you rest from your work. See, and because we've been thinking that this rest was a verb, then we're thinking like, well, how does this work? I'm supposed to do stuff anyway, but how am I supposed to rest if I'm supposed to be cleaning and their children don't ever let me rest? Well, if you walk into this place of rest, in that place of rest, because of the location, because it's the right place, because it's the place where we're supposed to be, and we're supposed to be diligent in entering that place, what happens is in that place, you get to rest from your work. Now, again, it doesn't say that you don't work, but that you're resting from your work. You get that feeling of feeling rested from your work because you're in that place. So, what I committed to this morning is saying, all right, I'm just going to imagine every single time and be very proactive to when I'm doing things, literally making sure that I'm doing them inside that place of rest. Now, I still do the things I'm supposed to do. I still work and coach and write and teach and cook and wipe and mop and do laundry, but I'm doing them inside the place that it's meant to be done out of. So when you tell your children, like, there's a place for everything and everything in its place, that's what we're talking about. There's a place to do the things out of. You enter into that place of rest, and then you know what? I'm almost guaranteeing that there's not going to be any weariness inside, because even this morning, as I was thinking about the stuff that I had to do each day, through just today, there was a lot of stuff that I have to do today, for home and for business and for kids and homeschooling, etc. But just thinking that I needed to enter into that place and that every action was going to be out of that place, it really got me into the right frame of mind. And I immediately felt a lot of peace and a lot of rest and a lot of calm come into my life. So that's just like another dimension of my relationship with God and what he continues to teach me, and what's just amazing to know that these revelations are happening all the time, and that if you're just open, whether you've been reading the Bible for 20 years or whether you've just come to know him and don't even read the Bible, like, that's okay. It's just about your relationship with God and beginning to enter into the things that God has for you, because he wants us to live a life of rest in a place that will automatically allow for a verb uh, that feels like we're resting even though we're working. So I hope that's been encouraging for you today. I hope that it's a blessing for you what you've learned, and just go dig into those verses, and just even if you don't understand them, just know that there is a physical place, a spiritual well, a location, a spiritual location called rest, and that when you enter into it, your weariness will be gone. All right. Well, make sure you share this video with a lot of other moms who probably are feeling weary too. And make sure you visit my website, shirleysolis.com. Subscribe to this channel for some amazing content on how to be a better wife and how to relate to your husband and how to raise powerful and amazing children and how to be totally empowered as a woman and find your purpose. Okay? All right. Love you. Big kiss. Till next time. Bye.